Thursdays in the month of June, we have decided to dedicate to discussing health issues affecting men. And today being the first Thursday and the 1st of June, we'll also be speaking about a condition that greatly affects men and their relationships. We're talking about infertility. And this is usually caused by problems that affect either sperm production or sperm transport. And Mama Vio Swabwa is live from the Taifa Polyclinic and is about speaking to the managing director of the facility, Dr. Charles Dehurst. Well, I'll go to Mama Vio to make sure that I get the right pronunciation of the name. Mama Vio, are you ready? Good morning to you. And how interesting is it with the conversation?
Yeah, good morning to you, Roland. And I'll help you out. Dr. Charles Dehurst is the medical director in charge of the facility.
Dehurst, right.
So appropriately so. You don't have any problems down there, do you?
No, though, but I've been wondering all morning since you said that we'll be dealing now every Thursday in June with men's health. I kept wondering, why is that many of the men who seem to be having problems just around our girdle, you know, our pelvic areas? Why? So please ask Dr. Dehurst why.
On your behalf. All right, Roland. Thanks a lot. We're here in Taifa, exactly at the Taifa Polyclinic. And the man in charge of the facility is joining us. He's not new to the show, except that today we've actually decided to come to you. Thank you so much. Good morning to you. Thanks for being on the program. Roland, my colleague in the studio, is asking, he wants to know why men seem to have issues from down there. Is that the biggest weakness in men?
It's very difficult for men. So it's one of the major weaknesses. Because to be told you can't father a child, it's very difficult for most men. It's very frustrating. That's why most men will actually not come out willingly to do the test to see whether they are fertile or not. Yeah, so it's difficult.
So you can actually carry out a test to see if you're fertile or not?
Yes. For a male, we do what is called the semen analysis.
Okay.
Okay, so we take part of the semen and then do some labs on them. Now, what is difficult is actually how the sample is taken. Okay, because for most men, we have to get the sample through masturbation. Okay, so for you to tell a man to come to the hospital, go to a room with a sample container to masturbate and give you the semen for analysis is difficult for most men. The other methods where you can get a sample, but masturbation is common. Okay, so most men, when they hear about that, well, they'll tell the woman to do further checks and see.
But that's not easy for. Okay, so now I'm beginning to understand why it's difficult for men to do that, because it means you have to go to the facility and masturbate to get the sample.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, either the facility or somewhere that is close, because within 1 hour you have to get a sample and then analyze it.
Oh,
yes.
okay. But there's a chat that you have for us to set off the conversation for us, so you take us through, and that's on your laptop. What we are doing in the month of June is to every Thursday discuss a medical problem peculiar with men. We're dedicating every Thursday on our show, the AM show, in the month of June to men, and we're beginning off with infertility in men. Okay, so.
Right, so this is the structure or anatomy of the neuroreproductive system. So as you can see, we have, this is the testis, okay? And then right above it is a structure called the epididymis. And then you have this long tube, it's called the vas deferens, okay? Or the, that's the tube through which the sperm passes before it's ejaculated. Now right from the tube, you go into some structures which are called the glands, of which the prostate is part. And these actually add some fluids to the sperm to form the semen. Then right from there, it passes through the tube in the penis or the urethra, okay, and then is ejaculated during the whole sexual intercourse process. Okay. So first from the testis goes through the epididymis, the vas deferens, goes through some organs that secrete some fluids to add to the sperm to form the semen, and then it comes out as ejaculation. Yes.
So at what point do we say that a man is not fertile?
Okay. So both for male and then female, usually we allow them to have at least a whole year of unprotected sexual intercourse. Okay. If after that there's no conception or it's not producing any results, then we say that the man is having fertility issues. Okay. But from there, we have to actually take a thorough history that involves the past medical history, sexual history. We do a thorough examination, physical examination, and then after that, we do some tests that include the semen analysis, where we take a sample of the semen and then we do some tests on it. Yes.
Okay. But usually, what's the percentage like? At what point, is there a certain percentage that you say, oh, 10% of men, usually when there's a childbearing problem, then it's the problem of the man?
Okay, so up to about a third of couples, okay, that come to us for infertility problems, a third of them is actually due to the male. So that's quite a number. So out of every 3 couples you see, at least one of them, the problem of infertility is likely or may be from the male. Okay. Yes. The issue of infertility is a bit dicey because sometimes you do all the tests, everything is normal. The semen, the sperms are all normal. But then still there's issue of infertility. So in about 15% of men, they are normal, but they are still infertile.
Oh. Could it also be in these instances that somebody does all the check and says, oh, everything says I'm okay. So it could only be a fault of the woman, but when actually is the man?
Yeah, it's possible. That's why, you see, anytime you, after a whole year of unprotected sexual intercourse, and then the history, physical exam, you do the semen analysis, as soon as you detect that there's a problem with infertility for a male, he has to see a specialist, that is a urologist, because the whole male infertility problem needs a lot of skill and experience to deal with. Okay, so that you don't just say, okay, everything is fine, so go, probably it's from the woman or not. Yeah. So you need a specialist to do a thorough check. We have several courses. From the picture that I showed you, you can have local courses. That is, you can have a blockage, okay, from where the sperm is produced up to where it's brought out from the penis. Okay, any blockage anywhere can cause the problem. Now, right on top of the testes, you have this collection of veins there that can become a bit tortuous or dilated, just as you have varicose veins on the legs. It can become varicose, and we call it varicocele. When that happens, it can cause problems of infertility in male, up to about 40%. So with that, the urologist usually can deal with that situation and can reverse it. Okay. So anytime you detect a problem or you suspect infertility in a male, has to see a specialist for a thorough examination and evaluation.
Okay. Yes. Now, I know it will be difficult for anybody to come forward, but you are a doctor in charge of a facility. How often do you see men walk in to say, I think I may have an infertility problem?
Okay, as now we are seeing more of the couples, but then they come in as, okay, well, I've been with my wife for some time, we're having fertility issues, okay, and then they'll go like, okay, so I want you to check her. A few of them will say, okay, you check me as well. Okay. So that's the problem. Sometimes the ladies come alone.
Or they come with escorts / husbands.
Exactly. So you tell them that, okay, this issue is not just about you, but we have to evaluate the two of you together. Yes. So it's difficult for men, and I think maybe there are some socio-cultural issues too that bother on this. Yes.
Yeah. If you're watching us, you can send me a WhatsApp message, and I want the messages coming from the men, because our Thursday is dedicated to men solely on our social conversations. We're having a conversation on infertility in men. My guest is Dr. Charles Dewhurst. He's the man in charge of the Taifa Polyclinic. That's where we're coming to you live from. So send me a WhatsApp message or a regular text message. It could be a comment or a question, and I'll put it forward to him. If you look at Ghanaian men,
Yeah.
what is a peculiar challenge when it comes to infertility?
Right. In terms of the disease processes?
Yeah,
did
or
you
the
say?
causes.
The causes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So most of the causes, as I said, generally for men, are due to most of them are surgical. Okay. So when we do the analysis, for instance, if we do the semen analysis and you have no sperms at all in the semen, that's what we call azoospermia. Sometimes it's good in the sense that it gives you an idea that probably there's some blockage somewhere in the structure that I showed you. So the sperms are not coming at all into the fluid that's from the semen. So you search for the blockage, you remove the blockage, and then everything comes back to normal.
Okay.
Yes. And as part of the whole process, the sperm has to come out through ejaculation. So if the male has problem with erection, that's erectile dysfunction or impotence, of course, the sperms, everything is there, but the penis will not even erect for it to come out. So in that case, we have to sort the problem of the dysfunction or the impotence.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because you first have to penetrate so that the sperms will get in there to fertilize the egg.
So impotence could lead to
male infertility. Yes.
Okay.
It does lead
Okay.
to. There are some rare cases where you have problems in the body. For example, you have STIs, gonorrhea, chlamydia infections. Then we have to treat the infection. Okay, and STI is very common. Okay, and that can cause secondary infertility. Yes. So with the STI, we treat the underlying infection. Most of the time, they are fine, and everything comes back to normal. Now, in some rare cases, you can have autoimmune. When we say autoimmune, the body itself is seeing the sperms as foreign or an enemy inside the body. So it destroys itself. So before you can even go out to fertilize an egg, already the body is dealing with it. So the sperms will not be available to fertilize the egg.
Okay.
Yeah. And then some rare cases, you can have some hormonal problems. The whole stimulation for ejaculation comes from the brain. Some hormones come from the brain, and then they tell the testes, okay, produce the sperms for us. If there are problems with the hormones, it wouldn't work. Okay. Yeah. So commonly there are blockage issues that can be dealt with. Okay. Either the veins are dilated, something's blocking the flow, erectile dysfunction, etc. STIs, all these can be managed and solved.
Okay.
As most of the times, we want the men to come forward because these are not rare problems. They are problems that we see, and most of the time something can be done about it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We've got lots of messages coming in already. Here's one that says, what effects can regular masturbation have on a man's fertility?
Okay. That's a good question. For instance, before you do the semen analysis, we tell you to wait at least 2 to 5 days to allow the sperms to mature, to get a good quantity so that we can analyze. Okay. Now, if masturbation is something that you do every time, the quality of the sperm reduces. Actually, research shows that when you analyze the sperm from masturbation and from regular ejaculation, usually there's a difference in how the sperms look like. Okay, masturbation, usually the sperms, they look like those who have undergone some traumatic process. Okay, so it's not good if you want a good quality of sperm to be able to fertilize an egg for conception to occur.
Okay. It looks like we're getting masturbation questions because John from La Paz says, I do masturbate always. Can I be able to give birth? And I'll read a few more of those messages and let's see how we can box all of them together. This one says, I'm having low sperm. Is it motility? Maybe you can correct if that's not it. After a semen analysis, how do I correct? That's from Emmanuel from Kumasi. Let's box that with, can the kind of food men eat affect the quality of their sperms? Sharif Alidu from Salaga says, what measures can a man take to ensure that he doesn't have a low sperm count? This one says, Oh, okay. Just keep the messages coming through. I'll do well and read all. This one says, how do I determine sexual weakness? What causes sexual weakness? Two more, and then we'll go to Dr. Charles Juhes to answer some of the questions that you've asked. This one says, good morning. I am Philip from Kaswa. Why is it that you have... you can have sex without ejaculation, but when you masturbate, the sperm comes? And the final one is, I am suffering from sperm non-liquefaction. Is that it?
Yeah, liquefaction.
Okay. Please, can it be handled at your facility? That's also a question that's coming through. So if we can, I hope you remember all the other things.
Yes, I'll try and remember them. Okay, so the first thing is that as I said earlier, as soon as we discover that there's an issue with infertility, you have to see a specialist. Now, the semen analysis looks for some parameters. Okay, we look for the volume of the sperm, usually ranges between 2 to 5 mils. Then we look for liquefaction. Liquefaction is the time usually when the sperms come out through ejaculation, it comes out as a gel. You give it some time, then it forms a liquid. So liquefaction is the time that the sperm takes from that gel form to the liquid form, and usually it should be between 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
If it's prolonged, then we are wondering what is delaying that liquefaction process, turning from gel to liquid.
Okay.
And usually infections can do that. Okay.
Okay.
So in that case, we look for the infection and then we deal with it.
Okay.
Yes. Now, the other thing that we look for is the sperm counts. We are saying that at least for a milliliter of sperm, you should have 20 million or more. That's a lot. Anytime you are having less of that, then you wonder what is going on. Then you look for how the sperms are moving. That is the motility. The sperm should move forward, okay, because they are going to fertilize an egg. Now, we are saying that
even when they are not going to fertilize an egg.
Yes. That's
Okay.
the job. Always moving forward. Now, we are saying that within an hour, you should have about 50% of them moving forward. Okay, so when you do the test and we see that less than that number on the average, they are not moving forward within an hour, then we are wondering what is going on.
Okay.
Okay, and then we look at the shape of the sperms too. The sperm usually looks like a tadpole. Okay, but you have some sperms that have double head, double tail, supposed to be one tail, but they have double tail, or some sperms that have no tails at all, or some sperms that are very tiny. Yeah, so all these differences in the structure gives us an idea that there is something going wrong. Yes, so we do further evaluation and then we get to the cause of it. Now, when you have regular sexual intercourse, you're supposed to ejaculate, whether it's normal ejaculation or premature ejaculation. Yeah, so if you're not ejaculating, that's what we call delayed ejaculation or retarded, sometimes it doesn't come at all, then we have to find out the cause.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't ejaculate through the penis, it rather goes back to the bladder. Okay, so we call it retrograde ejaculation. Okay, so you have at the peak of sexual satisfaction where you expect to ejaculate, it doesn't come, but rather it goes back into the urine, and then later when you urinate, it comes out with the sperms. Okay, so when you come to us, we'll ask detailed questions and get to the bottom of all these.
I remember one of the questions that says, if I masturbate, I see the sperms, but when I ejaculate, then I don't see it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that masturbation, actually what comes out is ejaculation. You get it? So if you're having regular intercourse and you're not ejaculating, then you wonder if is it from your sexual partner, because masturbation, the semen comes out as ejaculation. So masturbation is more of you stimulating yourself to arousal or for you to ejaculate. So it's still a form of ejaculation.
Okay.
But if you're not having it with your partner or with your wife, then we have to, why is it that he or she's not able to stimulate you or what? Other than the masturbation, the semen that comes out is ejaculation. So the person is still ejaculating, just that he's able to do it when he stimulates himself, but not by a female.
Oh, okay. Here's a question from Dawood in Wa. Dawood says, I've been married for 9 years, but can't go twice. Even the one, I become weak. What is the cause?
Okay. Now, I think the questions are more towards they are looking at the whole sexual thing.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, they are moving from the infertility thing.
Okay. But they're not connected necessarily.
Sometimes they do. That's why I said the erectile dysfunction, for example, is one of the causes for male infertility. So I'll still explain it. Now, anytime you're having erectile problems, you have to look at what's going on. Commonly, systemic problems like diabetes, mellitus, hypertension can cause those problems, can lead to some form of sexual weakness. Okay, that is still impotence or erectile dysfunction. Okay, so we have to evaluate, is it that you're having a problem with your sugar, your BP, your nerves? Then when we get to the bottom of that, we sort that problem. Usually most men recover their potency. Sometimes some drugs too can do that.
Okay.
Now, some BP drugs can actually decrease your potency. So if you're a male and you come to us with a high BP, usually we are careful not to start you on those drugs unless it's very necessary. Okay. Because sometimes we see males as old as 80 years plus, they come complaining of erectile issues, but they have hypertension. They are not concerned about their hypertension, but what the drug is doing to their potency. Yeah, so some drugs can do that. So most of the times in male, we are cautious the kind of drugs.
Okay.
Other drugs like steroids, the ones that male they use for their whole body building, etc., can also cause some form of infertility.
Okay.
Yes. So when you come to us, we'll take some time. We'll ask of your medical history, sexual history, drug history. To get to know.
How about the aphrodisiacs? They're really famous.
They do have their own issues. Okay. You see, the whole thing about infertility is not just, or fertility, it's not just about penetrating the female, but what is the quality of the sperms? Okay. If the sperms are not going through their normal or natural processes to be able to fertilize the egg, then you have an issue. Okay. So the aphrodisiacs, etc., usually cause to force things to happen rather than things happening in a natural way.
Yeah, okay. It looks like this conversation is getting really interesting right now, and we're getting lots of messages, but unfortunately we can't go through all because we've got to wrap up and make way for Becky, who has entertainment courtesy Airtel. So I'm going to ask my last question, and maybe we can do a part 2 of the same conversation. Sure. Yusuf and Tamale says, how will a man know he's infertile, and what will be the effects for the man?
Okay, so I think maybe we've talked about that.
Unless you do the tests.
Yes. So unless you see, for a general practitioner, first you go through a thorough history and examination, request for some tests, and then if you find out that you have an issue with fertility, we'll let you see a specialist, a urologist, so that he takes it from there. Okay. Okay. Just to talk on, earlier on I think somebody asked about some preventive measures. Yes. I think the issue of lifestyle is very important.
Somebody's talking about food, and prescribed foods.
Yes.
That you can eat.
So generally we advise good nutrition, and that comes with our fruits and vegetables. Okay. Banana, avocado, etc. They are all very good sources of nutrients that help the sperms to do their function well. Okay. Okay. Some nutrients like folic acid, zinc are also very good for the sperms.
Oh, so men can take folic acid too?
Yes, they can. So a combination of folic acid and then zinc is very good. Yes. And then in addition, you should sleep well. You should have a good sleeping habits. Okay. Because it helps the sperms to be able to recover from whether masturbation, ejaculation, etc. Okay. So that their quality is also good. And then general exercise. We are saying that you shouldn't smoke. That's why no smoking. Alcohol, I'd best stop alcohol. Okay, so smoking alcohol also affects the quality of the sperm. Okay. Yeah. The exercise should be moderate. It shouldn't be too much, because too much too can actually slow down the whole quality of the sperm. Yes.
Perhaps a very last one from Samuel says, can divided urine affect fertility? And I wonder what divided urine is.
Okay, so that is another topic altogether. Oh, okay. Usually,
then let's not start it.
Usually that comes with when you have prostate problems.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sometimes if you've had some STIs in the past, you have some scar forming in the urethra. That is the passage for the urine, and it doesn't allow it to flow well. So poor urinary stream, the division, etc., is also a different cause altogether.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we've got to wrap up. but it looks like this is a big issue. This is certainly a big issue that we can spend a lot more time talking about the various aspects. So we can do this again next week if it's okay with you.
Sure, it's fine.
Okay. But we're also asking you to send us what you want us to talk about. It's in the month of June and it's on Thursdays. It's exclusive to men only. Dr. Charles Dewhurst, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for allowing us to step into your space.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. So thank you for watching. This is the very first episode of a lot to come every Thursday on the AM show, only on JoyNews. Stay with us. Back to you, Roland. Becky is on standby. Ketsi Airtel will bring you some entertainments.
Well, thank you very much. Also, Mama Vioswa Boaje, and this month is an attack on men by you, Mama Vioswa Boaje, and the rest of the women's production team, also supported by Michaela Richter Anderson Nye. We won't agree. We won't agree, but well, thank you very much, Mama Vioswa Boaje.